She picked up the handbag, admiring the fine leather, when a shadow loomed over her. "I need to check your bag," the security guard said, his voice cold, his eyes full of judgment. The store went silent. Customers turned to watch. She blinked, confused. "Excuse me?" "We've had problems with theft," he said, gripping his radio. "And you look suspicious." Her stomach tightened. She had been here before, not in this store, but in this moment. She could feel every stare, every assumption. But today they had picked the wrong person. Before we start the story, comment below where in the world you are watching from today. And if you like this story, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss a new one. The air inside the luxury store felt cold, not because of the temperature, but because of the way eyes shifted toward Olivia the moment she stepped in. She had just finished a long shift at the hospital, still in her dark blue scrubs, her white coat neatly folded over her arm. The soft chime of the entrance bell had barely faded before she felt it, that familiar, unwanted attention. Employees glanced at each other, their expressions unreadable but tense. Greg, the store's security guard, straightened the moment he saw her. His eyes followed her every move. Olivia ignored it. She wasn't new to this feeling. She moved through the store, her fingers grazing the polished glass displays filled with expensive handbags and jewelry. A deep red purse caught her eye, its craftsmanship perfect, its leather smooth. It reminded her of something from years ago, a promise she had made to herself when she was a little girl, staring into store windows, wishing for a future where she wouldn't have to just look. She smiled, reaching out to examine the details. A sudden shadow cast over her, blocking the light. Greg stood inches away from her, his stance rigid, his hand resting on his belt as if ready for action. His voice came out flat, sharp. "I need to check your bag." The words cut through the air, loud enough for nearby shoppers to hear. Conversation slowed. Olivia blinked, her fingers still on the purse. "Excuse me?" she said, her voice calm but firm. "You've been acting suspicious," Greg continued, his tone leaving no room for discussion. "We've had issues with theft. I need to see your bag." At the jewelry counter, Emily, a young sales associate, slowly turned to watch, her diamond bracelets sparkling under the store's bright lights. Another customer near the entrance. Daniel whispered something to his friend, his gaze flicking toward Olivia before looking away, uncomfortable. Behind the cash register, Tessa, another employee, gripped the edge of the counter but said nothing. Olivia kept her posture straight, her heartbeat steady despite the humiliation burning inside her. "I haven't done anything wrong," she said. Greg's mouth curled slightly, an expression that wasn't quite a smile. "If you haven't, you shouldn't have a problem showing me your bag." Her jaw tightened. She could feel the weight of every stare pressing into her back, the unspoken judgment hanging in the air. She knew how this worked. If she resisted, she would be seen as aggressive. If she complied, she would be seen as guilty. Either way, she was already on trial. A woman in a light-colored designer dress, Manda, walked past them, her arms full of shopping bags, her perfume leaving a trail of expensive jasmine and vanilla. Greg didn't even glance at her. Olivia exhaled slowly. "No." The single word shifted the energy in the room. Greg's smirk faded, replaced by something harder. "Then I'll have to ask you to leave." A small buzz of whispers spread through the store, customers watching with curiosity, some pulling out their phones. Olivia wasn't sure if they were filming for proof or entertainment. Maybe both. The store manager, Lisa, appeared from behind the counter, adjusting her name tag as she approached. Her smile was tight, forced. "Is there a problem here?" Greg crossed his arms. "She's refusing to cooperate. Could be hiding something." Lisa's gaze flicked to Olivia, hesitant, calculating. Olivia could see it, the quick internal debate happening behind the woman's carefully neutral expression. Would she side with her employee, or would she do the right thing? A pause stretched between them, thick and heavy. Then in a clipped tone, Lisa nodded toward the exit. "Maybe it's best if you leave." And just like that, it was decided. Olivia's fingers curled tightly around the strap of her bag, but her expression remained steady. The humiliation settled deep, but she refused to let it show. Her heart pounded in her chest, but she met Lisa's gaze without flinching. And what exactly have I done that justifies throwing me out? Olivia asked, her voice controlled. Lisa hesitated, shifting uncomfortably. Greg is just doing his job. We have a right to ensure the safety of our merchandise. By assuming that I'm stealing, Olivia pressed, do you randomly accuse all your customers or just the ones who look like me? A few shoppers nearby exchanged glances, the weight of Olivia's words sinking in. Some lowered their eyes, pretending not to hear. Others watched intently, waiting to see how this would unfold. Greg's patience was wearing thin. He took a step closer, his posture rigid. Ma'am, this doesn't have to be difficult. Just show me your bag, and if you've got nothing to hide, you can go about your day. The words, if you've got nothing to hide, sliced through her. It was a phrase Olivia had heard too many times before. She took a slow breath, forcing herself to stay composed. Let me ask you something, Olivia said, her tone sharp. She gestured toward Amanda, the woman in the designer dress, who was still browsing near the jewelry section. How many times have you checked her bag? Greg's jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Olivia turned to Lisa. Or what about the man over there? She motioned toward Daniel, who was inspecting a row of watches. Are you asking him to prove he's not a thief? Lisa shifted uncomfortably. This isn't about them. Exactly, Olivia said, her voice cool, because they don't fit the profile you've created in your head. Greg's patience snapped. He reached for his radio. That's it. I'm calling the cops. A collective gasp rippled through the store. Someone in the back muttered, "This is getting out of hand." A few customers edged toward the exit, wanting no part in what was about to happen. Lisa's eyes widened. Greg, maybe we don't need to. No, Greg cut her off. She's refusing to cooperate. That's suspicious behavior. Olivia let out a slow exhale. She had spent years in medical school, sleepless nights saving lives, dedicating herself to a career where she had to be twice as good to earn the same respect. And yet here she was, being treated like a criminal over a handbag she hadn't even touched. She wasn't about to let this happen. She pulled out her phone and, in a voice as calm as ever, said, "If you're calling the cops, I should probably make a call too." Lisa and Greg exchanged glances, confusion flashing across their faces. Olivia held the phone to her ear and spoke into it with quiet authority. "I need my lawyer. Now." A tense silence fell over the store as Olivia held her phone to her ear. Her voice remained steady, but her words carried weight. "I'm at Crestview Luxury Store. Security just accused me of theft without cause. I need legal representation immediately." Greg's smirk faded. Lisa's expression tightened, realizing this was no ordinary customer. The energy in the store shifted. What had started as an easy accusation was turning into something much bigger. A few customers discreetly pulled out their phones, recording the exchange. The quiet murmurs grew louder, a mix of curiosity and unease filling the air. Olivia could feel their stares, but she focused on the phone. "Yes," she continued, "they are calling the police now. Let's make sure this situation is handled properly." Lisa cleared her throat, her confidence wavering. "Ma'am, there's no need to get lawyers involved." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Oh? So now that I have legal support, suddenly there's no need?" Greg huffed, gripping his radio tighter. "You're making this more difficult than it needs to be. Just show your bag and this will all go away." Olivia shook her head. "Number, if you think I stole something, call the police. But understand this. If they walk in here and find out I was falsely accused, you're going to have a much bigger problem." Lisa's fingers twitched at her side. She was losing control of the situation. Customers were watching, employees were growing nervous, and now there was a chance lawyers would get involved. Greg, however, wasn't backing down. "Fine," he said, lifting his radio. "Let's see what they have to say about it." He spoke into the device, calling in law enforcement. "Yeah, I need officers at Crestview Luxury Store. We have a customer refusing to cooperate in a theft investigation." Olivia's grip on her phone tightened. The word theft investigation echoed in her mind. The way he said it, so casual, as if it were fact, sent a wave of heat through her chest. Amanda, still by the jewelry counter, quietly set down a necklace she had been holding and inched toward the exit. She moved slowly, carefully, as if trying not to draw attention. Olivia's sharp eyes caught the movement, and something inside her clicked. Amanda's expensive bag was slightly fuller than before. Olivia's gaze darkened. She knew exactly what was happening. While she was being humiliated, the real thief was about to walk out the door unnoticed. Olivia kept her gaze locked on Amanda as she casually adjusted the strap of her designer bag and took a slow step toward the exit. The weight inside the bag shifted slightly, too noticeably for someone who had only been browsing. Greg, still gripping his radio, had no idea what was happening right under his nose. His entire focus was on Olivia, the woman he had decided was the problem. The irony made Olivia's stomach turn. Lisa, shifting uncomfortably beside Greg, finally spoke again. "Look, maybe we're overreacting. If you just let us check," Olivia cut her off. "Number I won't be treated like a criminal just to make your job easier." Greg scoffed, shaking his head. "You people always make things harder than they have to be." A sharp murmur ran through the customers, some of whom had been quietly watching, but now stiffened at his words. A woman near the watch display muttered, "Did he just say, 'you people'?" Olivia inhaled deeply, refusing to let anger cloud her judgment. "Say that again?" Greg's smirk returned. "I said you're making this harder than it has to be." Lisa glanced at him with wide eyes, realizing his slip, but it was too late. The moment had been caught by at least two people recording with their phones. Olivia didn't have to say anything. His words were loud enough. But she wasn't done yet. She turned her head slightly, eyes flickering back toward Amanda. The woman was now only a few feet from the exit. No one was paying attention to her. No security. No manager. Not a single person questioning why she was walking out with a bag that suddenly seemed heavier. Olivia folded her arms. "Before you put those handcuffs on me, maybe you should check hers." She nodded toward Amanda. Lisa frowned, confused. "What?" Greg rolled his eyes. "What are you talking about?" Olivia let a small, knowing smile play on her lips. "I saw her slip something into her bag. But you wouldn't know that, would you? Because you were too busy following me." Amanda froze. The tension in the store snapped into something electric. Whispers spread like wildfire. Eyes darted toward Amanda, who suddenly looked very, very uncomfortable. Greg's smug expression flickered with uncertainty. Lisa's mouth parted slightly, glancing toward the woman at the entrance. Olivia could see the exact moment when they both began to doubt themselves. Amanda, shifting under the weight of 100 stares, forced a laugh. "That's ridiculous. I was just leaving." "Oh, I bet you were," Olivia said, voice calm, measured. The seconds stretched long and thin. And then, just as Amanda took another step toward the exit, the unmistakable sound of store alarms blared through the building. The piercing alarms shattered the tense silence in the store. Every head turned toward the entrance as the shrill sound echoed off the polished floors. Amanda froze, her grip tightening around her expensive handbag. Greg's face twisted in confusion. "What the—" Lisa spun toward the security system behind the counter, her hands fumbling as she tried to silence the noise. But it was too late. The damage was already done. Amanda let out a forced, nervous laugh. "There must be a mistake." Olivia didn't move. She didn't need to. She had already seen the truth in Amanda's panicked eyes before the alarm even confirmed it. Greg, who had been so confident just moments ago, looked between Amanda and the entrance, his fingers still gripping his radio. He hesitated, his authority suddenly slipping through his fingers. The murmurs in the store grew louder. Customers whispered among themselves, eyes darting from Olivia to Amanda. Did she really steal something? Wait, wasn't security just harassing the doctor? So they were watching the wrong person this whole time? Amanda took a shaky step backward, as if calculating whether she could still make it out. But Greg finally moved. "Ma'am, I need you to open your bag," he said, his voice less sure than before. Amanda's face flushed. I don't have to do anything. This is ridiculous." Lisa stepped in. "Amanda, we have to follow procedure. If the alarm went off, we need to check." Amanda let out a harsh scoff. "Oh, so now you care about checking bags?" she snapped, her voice rising. "But when she was accused, you didn't need proof?" Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Interesting, isn't it?" Greg looked at Amanda, waiting. When she didn't move, he took another step forward. "If you have nothing to hide, then open your bag." Amanda's fingers tightened around the leather strap. The tension in the store was suffocating. Then, with a dramatic sigh, she yanked open her purse. The moment she did, a delicate diamond bracelet and a pair of gold earrings tumbled onto the counter, the store's tag still attached. A stunned silence fell over the room. Lisa's face turned ghostly pale. Greg took a step back, his mouth parting slightly. Customers gasped, some covering their mouths, others raising their phones higher to record. Amanda stammered. I don't know how that got in there. Olivia let out a soft chuckle, shaking her head. Of course you don't. Lisa, her hands trembling slightly, turned to Greg. You need to call Mal Security. Greg, who had been so eager to arrest Olivia moments ago, now looked lost. His fingers hovered over his radio, but he wasn't as quick to use it this time. Amanda's composure cracked, her hands shaking as she reached for the jewelry. This is insane. I was going to pay for those. A woman near the back of the store muttered, Sure you were. Lisa exhaled shakily, her gaze shifting to Olivia, as if realizing, too late, the massive mistake they had made. But Olivia wasn't finished yet. She took a step closer, her voice quiet but firm. Tell me something, Greg. When you accused me, where was your proof? Greg said nothing. He couldn't. The weight of Olivia's words pressed into the air, like a storm rolling in. Greg's lips parted slightly, but nothing came out. He looked at Lisa, then back at Olivia, as if searching for a way to regain control of the situation. But there was no way out of this. Not anymore. Amanda stood frozen, her trembling fingers still hovering over the stolen jewelry on the counter. Her once perfect composure had crumbled, leaving behind only panic. Her face was flushed, her breath uneven. This is a misunderstanding, she tried again, her voice shaky, but no one looked convinced. Lisa, still struggling to absorb what had just happened, took a slow step back, her gaze bouncing between Amanda and Greg. She had spent the entire confrontation siding with Greg, letting him handle it, but now she wasn't sure what to do. The whispers in the store had grown louder, spreading like wildfire. She really thought she could walk out with that? They had no problem accusing the doctor, but look at them now. Oh, this is definitely going viral. Phones stayed raised, capturing every second. Olivia knew by the time she left the store, the entire internet would have an opinion on what had just happened. Greg exhaled sharply, running a hand over his shaved head. I still don't see why you're making a big deal out of this, he muttered, mostly to himself. She would have been out of here in 2 minutes if she just showed her bag in the first place. Olivia narrowed her eyes. You still don't get it, do you? Greg let out a dry laugh. What's there to get? Security does bag checks all the time. You're the one who escalated this. That did it. The low murmurs in the store shifted into open shock. A woman near the sunglasses display scoffed, shaking her head. A man standing near the entrance crossed his arms and muttered, Unbelievable. Olivia stayed calm, but her voice was sharp, unyielding. Tell me something, Greg. If I had blonde hair and blue eyes, would you have still asked to check my bag? Greg's nostrils flared. Don't pull that card. What card? Olivia asked, tilting her head slightly. The truth. You didn't accuse Amanda. You didn't stop her at the door. You didn't ask Daniel over there to prove he could afford the watch he's looking at. You saw me, and before I even touched anything in the store, you made up your mind. Greg folded his arms. I made a judgment based on behavior. Oh, did you? Olivia arched an eyebrow. Tell me, Greg, what was suspicious about me? That I walked into the store? That I browsed handbags? That I existed in a space you didn't think I belonged? Greg didn't respond. Lisa finally broke her silence. Her voice, which had been firm before, now wavered. Look, this is all getting out of hand. I think we should… Olivia held up a hand. No, Lisa, you don't get to smooth this over. Not after standing there and watching it happen. Lisa's face turned red. You didn't mean for this to blow up in your face, Olivia finished for her. But you meant every decision you made today. You had a chance to do the right thing when Greg first accused me. You had a chance to stop him from calling the police. But you didn't, because deep down you agreed with him. Lisa swallowed hard, her fingers twitching at her sides. Olivia let out a short, humorless laugh. You see, that's the real difference here. You'll treat Amanda like a woman who made a mistake. You'll give her the benefit of the doubt. But me? She gestured at herself. I was guilty the second I walked in. The weight of her words settled over the store, thick and suffocating. Even the employees behind the counter, who had been silent throughout the ordeal, shifted uncomfortably. Amanda, realizing she was no longer the center of attention, grabbed onto the last shred of arrogance she had left. "Oh, please," she spat. "This isn't some social justice moment. You're making this way bigger than it is." Olivia smirked. "Bigger than it is? You mean bigger than the crime you just committed?" Amanda flinched, but Olivia wasn't done. "What's bigger? The fact that you stole, or the fact that security let you do it while harassing an innocent customer?" Amanda's mouth opened, but no words came out. Lisa pinched the bridge of her nose, exhaling like she had just realized the situation was spiraling beyond her control. "Okay, enough. We need to call mall security." Greg, still standing stiffly, gave Olivia one last hard look before muttering, "I'll handle it." He reached for his radio. But before he could press the button, Olivia spoke again. This time her tone was almost casual. "You won't have to worry about my presence in this store much longer." Greg barely spared her a glance. "Oh yeah? You leaving?" Olivia let a slow smile spread across her lips. "Not exactly." She turned her attention back to her phone, the call she had made still active. "Are the contracts finalized?" she asked, her voice smooth, effortless. Lisa's brow furrowed. "Contracts?" Greg frowned. "What are you talking about?" Olivia's smile didn't fade. She turned away from them, walking toward the front of the store just as a sleek black car pulled up outside. Lisa's stomach twisted with unease. Something was happening. Olivia stepped just past the doors, watching as the car came to a slow stop. And then, before anyone could say another word, three sharply dressed men stepped out, their polished shoes clicking against the pavement. Lisa's breath caught in her throat. She knew those men. They weren't just anyone. They were from the real estate acquisition team for the Crestview Mall. And suddenly, Lisa wasn't so sure she was still in control of her own store. Lisa's breath hitched as she recognized the men stepping out of the sleek black car. Their presence sent a shockwave through her system. They weren't regular customers, they weren't police. These were the men who handled big deals, the kind that could change everything in a matter of minutes. Greg, oblivious to what was happening, was still focused on calling mall security. His fingers hovered over his radio, but when he noticed Lisa's pale face, he hesitated. "What?" he muttered, following her gaze. That's when he saw them. Three men in tailored suits walked toward the entrance with an air of quiet authority. Their expressions were unreadable, their strides measured and deliberate. They weren't in a rush, yet their presence demanded attention. Customers whispered among themselves. Employees at the counter straightened their backs, exchanging nervous glances. Even Amanda, who had been too focused on her own unraveling disaster, shifted uncomfortably as the men approached. But Olivia? She didn't flinch. Instead, she turned, greeting the tallest of the three with a nod. "I assume everything is ready?" The man in the middle, a distinguished-looking gentleman with silver at his temples, gave a small smile. "It's done. Final paperwork is being processed as we speak." Lisa's stomach twisted into knots. "Wait," she blurted out. "What? What paperwork?" Olivia let the moment linger, the tension thick between them. Then, with an effortless grace, she turned back to Lisa and Greg, her expression calm, almost amused. "I just bought the mall." Dead silence. Lisa blinked. "Excuse me?" Greg let out a short, humorless laugh. "No, you didn't." Olivia tilted her head slightly. "I think you'll find that I did." One of the suited men, a serious-looking individual named Mr. Reynolds, stepped forward, adjusting the cuffs of his shirt. "Dr. Carter's acquisition of Crestview Mall has been in progress for weeks. Today it was finalized." Greg's smirk vanished. Lisa's entire body went rigid. Amanda took an instinctive step back. "No," she whispered under her breath. Mr. Reynolds turned to Lisa, his gaze sharp. "Your store, along with every other business in this mall, is now under new ownership." A wave of shocked gasps rippled through the crowd. Customers who had been filming earlier now had their cameras aimed directly at Olivia. Employees exchanged nervous whispers. No one had expected this. Lisa struggled to find words. Her fingers twitched at her sides as if she was trying to grasp onto something solid, something that could ground her in reality. This is some kind of joke." Mr. Reynolds remained unbothered. I assure you it's not. Lisa turned to Greg, searching for some kind of backup, but he looked just as lost as she did. Moments ago, they had all the power. Now, they had none. Olivia's gaze remained steady. You see, Lisa, Greg, this store, this mall, was never really yours to control. You had authority because someone gave it to you. But power? She exhaled softly. That's earned. Lisa's throat was dry. You can't, you can't just walk in here and what? Olivia cut in smoothly. Demand to be treated with the same respect as every other customer? Expect not to be harassed while shopping? Expect that a security guard does his actual job instead of targeting people based on personal bias? Greg's fists clenched. I was doing my job. Olivia's expression didn't change. No, Greg, you were abusing it. His nostrils flared. He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. Lisa, still struggling to process, shook her head. What happens now? A slow smile spread across Olivia's lips. I'm so glad you asked. She turned to Mr. Reynolds. Let's start with staffing. Lisa's breath caught. Wait. Olivia raised a hand, silencing her. Greg. She turned to the security guard, who stood stiffly, sweat forming at his temple. You're fired. The words landed like a thunderclap. Greg's face twisted. You can't. I can, Olivia interrupted, her voice calm. Absolute. And I just did. Lisa's stomach dropped. Her pulse pounded in her ears. Greg turned to Lisa. You're just going to let her do this? He demanded, voice rising. Lisa swallowed hard. She wanted to defend him, wanted to fight back. But the truth was, Olivia wasn't just some customer anymore. She was her boss. She turned away, saying nothing. Greg's jaw tightened, his pride wounded, his authority shattered. He looked back at Olivia. You're making a mistake, Olivia shrugged. I don't think so. Greg stood there for a long moment, his hands curling into fists at his sides. And then, finally, without another word, he turned and stormed toward the exit. The doors swung open, the same ones he had tried to throw Olivia out of just minutes before. The moment they shut behind him, Olivia turned back to Lisa, her gaze unwavering. Now, Lisa, let's talk about your position here. Lisa's breath came in short, shallow bursts. Her hands, usually steady and controlled, trembled slightly at her sides. The power she had held just minutes ago had dissolved, slipping through her fingers like sand. Greg was gone. Amanda stood silent, her shoulders stiff, still too stunned to process her own downfall. The store, once a place where Lisa had authority, no longer felt like her domain. And standing in front of her, completely composed, was Olivia, the woman she had dismissed, disrespected, and humiliated. The tension in the air was thick, the weight of 1,000 unspoken words pressing down on Lisa's chest. My position, Lisa finally managed to say, her voice not as strong as she intended. Olivia clasped her hands in front of her, tilting her head slightly. That depends. Lisa swallowed hard. On what? On whether or not you're worth keeping. A fresh wave of murmurs swept through the store. Customers, employees, everyone was still watching, still waiting. The balance of power had shifted so suddenly, so dramatically, that no one quite knew what would happen next. Lisa straightened her back, forcing herself to maintain a level of control. I've been managing this store for years, she said, her voice measured. I know this business. I know these customers. I've built a strong reputation. Olivia's expression remained unreadable. Have you? Lisa's stomach tightened. What are you saying? Olivia took a slow step forward. I'm saying that a good manager would have handled today very differently. Lisa's lips parted, but no words came out. Olivia continued. A good manager wouldn't have looked the other way when their security guard harassed an innocent customer. A good manager wouldn't have ignored blatant discrimination happening right in front of them. She let the words sink in before adding, and a good manager certainly wouldn't have stood silent while an actual thief walked out of their store. Lisa flinched. Amanda, still rooted in place, crossed her arms tightly over her chest. Lisa's pulse pounded in her ears. I made a mistake. Olivia gave a small nod. Yes, you did. Lisa licked her lips, forcing herself to stay composed. But I can fix it. Olivia arched an eyebrow. Fix it? Give me a chance to prove myself, Lisa said quickly, sensing her window of opportunity closing. I can make things right. I can implement changes, train the staff, ensure nothing like this ever happens again. Olivia studied her carefully. Lisa felt her heartbeat hammering against her ribs. "Why do you want to stay, Lisa?" Olivia finally asked. Lisa blinked. "What? Why do you want this job?" Olivia repeated. "Is it because you genuinely care about making things right? Or is it because you're afraid of losing everything?" The question sliced through Lisa like a blade. She wanted to say it was because she cared. She wanted to say she had always wanted to do better, that today was just an oversight, a misstep. But deep down, she knew the truth. She had never questioned the store's policies before today. She had never stopped Greg from profiling customers before today. She had never cared until it was her job on the line. Lisa's mouth opened, but nothing came out. Olivia nodded slowly. "That's what I thought." Lisa's stomach twisted. "I'll give you a choice," Olivia said. The air in the store stilled. Lisa's fingers curled into fists at her sides. "What choice?" "You can resign right now," Olivia said, her tone casual but firm. "Walk out of here with whatever dignity you have left. Or," she let the word linger, drawing out the moment, "you can stay, but under new leadership, with new rules, and under my terms." Lisa's lips parted slightly. "Under your terms?" Olivia smiled, but there was no warmth behind it. "That's right. You won't be the highest authority anymore. Every policy you've been enforcing, it changes today. No more profiling. No more looking the other way. No more tolerating discrimination in my store." Lisa's throat felt tight. "You'll take responsibility for your actions today, in front of your staff, and make a public commitment to change. If you can't do that, then you can hand in your resignation and walk out right now." A heavy silence hung between them. Lisa could feel every set of eyes on her. Employees, customers, people who had witnessed everything unfold. If she walked out now, her career in retail would be over. Word would spread. No high-end store would take her after this. But if she stayed, she would no longer have the power she once did. She would be under Olivia's command. Her pride screamed at her to leave. Her survival instincts told her to stay. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, Lisa let out a slow breath. "I'll stay," she said quietly. Olivia's expression didn't change. "Then I suggest you call your employees together. We have a meeting to conduct." Lisa's jaw clenched, but she nodded. "Understood." With that, she turned on her heel and walked toward the back office, her movements stiff, her shoulders tense. As soon as she disappeared, Olivia turned to Mr. Reynolds. "Make sure the official notices about the change in ownership are sent out today. Every tenant in this mall should know who they're working for now." Mr. Reynolds gave a small nod. "Consider it done." Olivia exhaled slowly, looking around the store. The tension was still there, but the power had shifted completely. The same store that had humiliated her just minutes ago. She owned it now, and she wasn't finished yet. Lisa disappeared into the back office, her footsteps sharp against the polished floor. The store had fallen into a stunned silence, the weight of Olivia's words still hanging thick in the air. Greg was gone. Lisa's authority had crumbled. Amanda stood motionless, her grip still tight around the bag that had once been a symbol of status, but was now nothing more than a reminder of her own disgrace. But Olivia wasn't done. She turned toward the employees still stationed behind the counters. Some had remained frozen, watching everything unfold with wide, uncertain eyes. Others had subtly backed away, trying to distance themselves from the fallout. None of them had stepped in. Not when Greg had accused her. Not when Lisa had backed him up. Not when Amanda had been moments away from slipping out unnoticed. She let the silence linger, giving them time to process what had just happened. Then in a voice steady and clear, she spoke. "Tell me something." A few employees stiffened. Emily, the young sales associate at the jewelry counter, clutched the edge of the display case, her knuckles pale. Tessa, the cashier who had stayed quiet the entire time, shifted uncomfortably. Daniel, the man browsing watches, had long since abandoned his shopping and now stood still, arms crossed, watching carefully. "When Greg accused me," Olivia continued, "who among you thought it was wrong?" A hesitant shuffle moved through the group. No one spoke. No one wanted to be the first to answer. Olivia nodded slowly. And yet, none of you said anything. Tessa swallowed. We didn't know what to do. No. Olivia arched an eyebrow. But if it had been Lisa accused, or Greg, or Amanda here, would you have known what to do then? Amanda flinched slightly at the mention of her name, but Olivia barely spared her a glance. Emily finally spoke up, her voice small. We were scared. Olivia let out a quiet, humorless chuckle. Scared of what? Emily hesitated. Of losing our jobs, of making things worse. Olivia studied her for a moment before sighing. Let me tell you something. I've spent years working in a field where people's lives are in my hands every single day. When I make a decision, there's no room for hesitation, no room for fear. And do you know what I've learned? No one answered. Olivia's voice softened, but it didn't lose its strength. Fear is a choice. Emily's brows knitted together, her lips parting slightly. You were scared, Olivia repeated. Well, so was I. So is every single person who has ever been put in a position where they have to fight for their dignity. But the difference is, I didn't let fear stop me from standing up for myself. The employees remained silent, absorbing her words. Olivia exhaled, shaking her head. I don't want a staff that's too afraid to do the right thing. That's not how this store is going to run anymore. Lisa reappeared from the back, her face slightly pale but composed. Everyone is here. Olivia turned toward the center of the store, where the rest of the employees had gathered. Their expressions varied, some wary, some guilty, some simply unsure of what came next. She stepped forward, standing before them like a leader before her team. Listen carefully, she said. Things are changing starting today. This store, this mall, it's under new ownership, which means we're doing things differently. A murmur rippled through the group. That means no more profiling, Olivia continued, her gaze sweeping across them. No more assuming someone doesn't belong based on their appearance. No more mistreating customers. If you can't respect every single person who walks through these doors, you don't belong here. The room was silent. Lisa shifted slightly. Dr. Carter, I understand, but Olivia cut her off with a raised hand. I'm not asking for your opinion, Lisa. I'm telling you how things are going to be. Lisa closed her mouth. From now on, customer service means exactly that. Service. Not judgment, not assumptions. Just respect. You either follow that or you walk out. She let the words settle before adding, and if any of you ever find yourself in a situation like today's, where someone is being mistreated in front of you, and you say nothing, then you're just as guilty as the person doing the harm. A heavy silence. Emily lowered her gaze. Tessa pressed her lips together. Lisa kept her arms crossed tightly over her chest, but she didn't argue. Then after a long pause, a single voice broke the quiet. I understand. It was Emily. Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it carried. She lifted her head, determination flickering in her eyes. I should have spoken up today. I won't let it happen again. Olivia nodded once. Good. Slowly others followed. Me too. We need to be better. I get it now. Even Tessa, hesitant at first, gave a small nod. Lisa exhaled slowly, but she too finally murmured. Understood. Olivia nodded. Then let's get to work. She turned toward Mr. Reynolds. I want every employee enrolled in an updated training program, effective immediately. Mr. Reynolds nodded. It'll be done. Olivia glanced toward Lisa. And you're going to make a formal statement about what happened today. Lisa stiffened. A statement? To the entire staff and to the public. Olivia's tone was unwavering. You're going to acknowledge what went wrong today and commit to making sure it never happens again. Lisa hesitated, her pride warring with logic, but then she nodded. I understand. Olivia inhaled deeply, then exhaled, the tension in her shoulders easing slightly. It wasn't perfect. It wouldn't undo what had happened, but it was a start. And as she glanced toward the front of the store, past the customers still murmuring, past the employees still recovering from the shock, her gaze landed on the one thing she never thought she'd see in this space, a reflection of herself, standing tall, in control, owning everything they once said wasn't meant for her. And she smiled, because this was just the beginning. The atmosphere inside the store was no longer tense. It was electric. The shift in power had happened so suddenly, so undeniably, that no one knew what to expect next. Employees stood scattered, absorbing the weight of Olivia's words. Customers, still lingering near the displays, whispered amongst themselves, their phones still recording. The internet would know about this before Olivia even walked out the door. Lisa stood stiffly beside Olivia, her arms crossed so tightly over her chest it looked painful. Her entire world had turned upside down in a matter of minutes. She had spent years running this store, enforcing policies, making decisions. Now she was answering to the woman she had tried to dismiss like a problem she could brush aside. Greg was gone. Amanda had been caught. The store's reputation was now under the control of the very person it had humiliated. And Olivia wasn't finished. She turned back toward Lisa, her voice steady. "Let's talk about policies." Lisa blinked. "Policies?" Olivia nodded. "That's right. If this store is going to continue operating under my ownership, there are going to be major changes." Lisa hesitated before speaking carefully. "Dr. Carter, this store has procedures that have been in place for years. We have security measures that only apply to certain people." Olivia cut in. "Tell me, Lisa, what's the official company policy for bag checks?" Lisa hesitated. "Go ahead," Olivia said, tilting her head slightly. "Tell me how your team decides which customers are randomly checked." Lisa's throat tightened. She knew where this was going. She knew the truth. But saying it out loud, that was different. "It's based on behavior," Lisa finally muttered. "On observation." Olivia raised an eyebrow. "Observation?" Lisa cleared her throat. "If someone appears suspicious, security has the right to investigate." "And what exactly does suspicious mean?" Olivia pressed. Lisa hesitated again. She felt like a cornered animal, stuck in an argument she had no way of winning. Olivia didn't wait for her answer. "Does suspicious mean someone browsing quietly? Someone dressed casually? Or does suspicious mean someone who doesn't look like your usual clientele?" Lisa's jaw clenched. Olivia let the silence hang between them before speaking again. "That policy? It's done. Finished. Gone. From now on, no one gets stopped based on suspicion. Security will only intervene when an alarm goes off or when there's actual evidence of theft. No more assumptions." Lisa exhaled sharply. "That's a drastic change." Olivia shrugged. "That's the point." Lisa looked at her for a long moment. She wanted to argue. She wanted to say something to regain even a fraction of control. But what was left for her to say? Nothing. So instead, she gave a tight nod. "Understood," Olivia smiled. "Good." She turned back toward the employees. "Another thing, this store will be implementing a new training program for all staff, effective immediately. Everyone, security, management, sales associates, will be required to complete it. And anyone who refuses," she gave a small, sharp smile, "they can leave." Emily shifted on her feet, nodding in agreement. "That's fair." Tessa bit her lip, but after a moment, she nodded too. Lisa didn't speak, but her silence was answer enough. Olivia exhaled softly, letting herself absorb the moment. This was her store now, her rules. But she wasn't done yet. She turned toward Amanda. The woman had been standing silently near the jewelry counter, trying to shrink into the background. She had gone from a confident, polished customer to a criminal caught red-handed, and now she looked like she was desperate for a way out. "As for you," Olivia said, her voice cutting through the room like a blade. Amanda flinched slightly but forced herself to keep her chin up. Lisa frowned. "Dr. Carter, security will handle her." "No." Olivia's voice was calm but absolute. "I want to hear what she has to say first." Amanda swallowed hard. "I already told you. I was going to pay for those." A quiet chuckle escaped Olivia's lips. "Right. You were just going to take them out of the store first, though? Before paying?" Amanda's face burned. "It was a mistake." "A mistake?" Olivia repeated. "Interesting. Because when Greg thought I was stealing, it wasn't a mistake. It was a theft investigation." Amanda shifted uncomfortably. "Tell me, Amanda," Olivia continued, her voice smooth, "do you think if I had been caught with stolen merchandise, Lisa and Greg would have let me stand here and argue about it?" Amanda said nothing. Do you think I would have been given the chance to say it was a mistake? Amanda let out a slow breath. No, exactly. Lisa cleared her throat. Doctor? Carter, what do you want done with her? Olivia studied Amanda for a long moment before turning toward Mr. Reynolds. Contact mall security. Let them handle her. Amanda's lips parted in protest. Wait, no. Olivia's voice was firm. We're done here. Amanda's shoulders slumped. She had no defense left, no way out. Mall security arrived within minutes. Two uniformed officers walked in, scanning the scene before approaching Lisa. We received a call about a theft? One of them asked. Lisa, still tense, gestured toward Amanda. It's her. Amanda's face burned as the officers stepped closer. I can just pay for it. This isn't necessary. You should have thought of that earlier, Olivia said simply. The officers asked Amanda to step aside, taking her toward the exit. She didn't resist, but her head remained lowered, her confidence completely shattered. The moment the doors closed behind her, Olivia exhaled deeply. One problem down. She turned toward Lisa again. Now back to business. There's still a lot of work to do. Lisa nodded. Yes, ma'am. The words tasted bitter on Lisa's tongue, but she said them anyway, because she knew Olivia wasn't just in charge of the store anymore. She was in charge of everything. A network error occurred. Please check your connection and try again. If this issue persists, please contact us through our help center at help.openai.com. The store felt different now. The same gleaming floors, the same polished glass displays, the same overpriced merchandise. But everything had changed. The weight of unspoken rules, of quiet prejudices that had governed this place for years, had been shattered. The authority that once belonged to Lisa, to Greg, to the unspoken social hierarchy of the store, now belonged to Olivia, and everyone knew it. Lisa stood stiffly, her fingers clasped together, her usual confidence replaced by something uneasy. She had spent years enforcing store policies without question, never stopping to consider whether they were right or wrong. She had never felt the need to question them. Not until now, not until she became the one being questioned. Dr. Carter, Lisa started, her voice careful, I understand that you're making changes, but I have to ask, how do you plan to run this store differently? Olivia glanced at her, amused. You want to know my plan? Lisa nodded, though she already knew she wouldn't like the answer. Olivia exhaled slowly, clasping her hands in front of her. It's simple. First, we dismantle the culture of discrimination that's been running through this store like a disease. Lisa flinched slightly at the bluntness of the statement, but Olivia wasn't finished. That means retraining every single employee on customer service, security, and professionalism. No more profiling, no more making assumptions about who can afford what. Every customer will be treated with the same level of respect, whether they walk in wearing designer clothes or scrubs from a long shift at work. Lisa swallowed. That's going to be a difficult adjustment. Olivia arched an eyebrow. For who? Lisa hesitated. For some of the staff, for some of our regular customers. People are used to the way things have always been run here. Then they can get used to something new, Olivia said smoothly. Or they can leave. Lisa pressed her lips together, unsure of how to respond. Second, Olivia continued, we're going to make sure this store, and every store in this mall, becomes a place of opportunity, not just exclusivity. Lisa frowned. What does that mean? It means hiring a more diverse staff, Olivia said. It means expanding our clientele, making this a place where people actually want to shop, rather than a place that only caters to a select few. Lisa's brows furrowed. But this is a high-end store. The entire branding is built around exclusivity. Olivia smiled knowingly. You've misunderstood what exclusivity means. The true luxury experience isn't about who you keep out. It's about how you make people feel when they walk in. Lisa exhaled slowly. She had never thought of it that way before. And finally, Olivia said, voice firm, we're going to change the leadership. Lisa's heart stuttered. She tried to keep her voice even. Leadership? Yes, Olivia said, crossing her arms. Starting with you. Lisa stiffened. I thought you said I could stay. You can. Olivia's expression remained calm. But you won't be running the store anymore. A cold chill ran down Lisa's spine. You're demoting me? Olivia tilted her head. I'm giving you a choice. Lisa felt her stomach tighten. She already knew the answer before Olivia even spoke. You can stay in a reduced role, focusing on store operations rather than making major decisions, Olivia said. Or you can walk away completely, but you will not be leading this team. Lisa clenched her jaw. And who will be? Olivia let the question hang in the air for a moment before turning to the employees still standing behind the counters. Then, without hesitation, she spoke. Emily. The young sales associate's eyes widened. She looked around, as if unsure she had heard correctly. Me? Olivia nodded. You? Lisa's head snapped toward Emily, her brows furrowing. She doesn't have management experience. Neither did you when you started, Olivia pointed out. But the difference between you and Emily is that she's already shown more leadership today than you did in the years you ran this place. Emily's hands shook slightly, but she straightened her back, something flickering in her expression. Something that hadn't been there before. Confidence. You spoke up when others stayed silent, Olivia told her. That's what this store needs. Someone who isn't afraid to do the right thing. Lisa exhaled through her nose, but she didn't argue. She knew she had no say in this anymore. Emily swallowed hard. I don't know if I'm ready. Then learn, Olivia said simply, because you're the new store manager. A stunned hush fell over the room. Lisa closed her eyes briefly, as if coming to terms with the fact that she had truly lost everything. Emily, on the other hand, was shaking, but she nodded. I won't let you down. I know, Olivia said. For the first time that day, Lisa felt something she wasn't used to feeling. Small. She had spent years believing that power came from position, from titles, from experience. But today she had learned the truth. Power came from integrity, and she had none left. Olivia turned back to Mr. Reynolds. Ensure the contracts are finalized by the end of the day. I want an official statement drafted about the leadership changes in the store. Mr. Reynolds nodded. Understood. Lisa exhaled slowly, turning to Olivia one last time. And what happens to me now? Olivia considered her for a moment. That's up to you. Lisa wanted to argue, wanted to fight, but there was nothing left for her to fight for. So with the last bit of dignity she had, she gave a single nod. Then I'll do my job. It was the only option she had left. Olivia watched as Lisa stepped back, blending into the group of employees she once ruled over. The message was clear. This store didn't belong to Lisa anymore. It belonged to Olivia, and she was just getting started. The transformation of power was complete. Lisa, who had once ruled the store with unchallenged authority, now stood among the employees, no longer above them. Greg was gone, his arrogance crushed under the weight of his own prejudice. Amanda had been escorted out in disgrace, her privilege unable to shield her from the consequences of her actions. And Olivia, she had walked into this store as a customer. She now stood at its center as its owner. But ownership was only the beginning. She turned toward Mr. Reynolds, who had remained silent but observant throughout the entire ordeal. His professional demeanor never wavered, but Olivia could see the approval in his eyes. Let's talk about the rest of the mall, Olivia said smoothly. Lisa, who had been staring at the floor, snapped her head up. The rest of the mall? Olivia nodded. That's right. I didn't just buy this store, Lisa. I bought everything. The murmurs among the staff grew louder. A cashier near the back whispered something to a coworker. Emily still looked overwhelmed by her sudden promotion, but she listened carefully, absorbing every word. Lisa's mouth opened, then closed, as if struggling to comprehend what that truly meant. You mean all the stores? The restaurants? Everything? Everything. Lisa exhaled sharply, her fingers twitching at her sides. The realization of what had just happened, the sheer scale of what Olivia had done, finally settled over her like a crushing weight. This wasn't just about a handbag. It wasn't just about an accusation. Olivia had just rewritten the rules of an entire empire. You don't understand how this place operates, Lisa said, her voice carrying a desperate edge. Running a mall isn't just about owning it. It's about managing dozens of businesses, dealing with contracts, handling logistics. It's not the same as running a hospital. Olivia gave her a small smile. You're right. It's not. But you assume I didn't prepare for this? Lisa pressed her lips together. This purchase wasn't a reaction, Olivia continued. It wasn't an impulse decision. This deal has been in motion for months. The incident today, that just solidified why this was necessary. Lisa's shoulders dropped slightly, realization dawning in her eyes. This had never been about a handbag. This had never been about one store. Olivia had planned for this long before she ever stepped through those glass doors. She had been watching, waiting, preparing. Lisa had been so certain of her power, so certain of the structure she had built. But the foundation had already been crumbling beneath her, and Olivia had just delivered the final blow. What happens next? Olivia turned her gaze toward the employees still standing around her, their expressions shifting from confusion to anticipation. You all have a choice, she said. You can stay and be a part of this change, or you can leave. The employees glanced at one another, processing what this meant. Lisa's breath hitched slightly, as if the words had been directed at her personally. And if we stay, then you adapt, Olivia said simply. New leadership, new policies, a completely different culture, one where people are respected regardless of who they are. Lisa hesitated. Olivia exhaled, shaking her head. You still don't get it, do you? Lisa frowned. Get what? You thought this store ran because of you, Olivia said. You thought your decisions shaped it. But stores don't run because of managers. They run because of the people who work the hardest and get the least recognition. Lisa's gaze flickered toward the staff, toward Emily, toward Tessa, toward the sales associates who had stood frozen in fear while Greg did whatever he wanted. The real foundation of the store hadn't been her policies. It had been the people she had ignored. Emily, still clutching the edge of the display counter, took a deep breath and stepped forward. I want to stay. Tessa hesitated, then nodded. Me too. Slowly, one by one, the staff murmured their agreements. Lisa felt a pang of something she wasn't used to, being left behind. She had spent years building this place her way, and now it was moving forward without her. A new beginning. Mr. Reynolds stepped beside Olivia. The transition will take a few weeks, but the paperwork is being finalized as we speak. Olivia nodded. Good. Lisa cleared her throat. And what happens to me? Olivia met her gaze. You have a choice too. Lisa forced herself to stay calm. Which is? You can stay, Olivia said, her voice firm. But under Emily's leadership, under my leadership, you won't be in charge. You won't be making the final decisions. You'll have to prove you're capable of being part of something bigger than yourself. Lisa swallowed hard. And if I say no? Olivia's expression remained neutral. Then your resignation will be accepted immediately. The words felt final. Lisa had once been in complete control of this store, and now she wasn't even sure if she belonged in it anymore. The silence stretched between them. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment, breathing in deeply before exhaling through her nose. Then finally she spoke. I'll stay. The words tasted bitter, but for the first time, Lisa wasn't saying them out of pride. She was saying them because she knew. Walking away wouldn't just mean losing a job. It would mean admitting she had never been the leader she thought she was. Olivia gave a small nod. Then prove you deserve to. Lisa lowered her gaze, giving a stiff nod in return. And just like that, the last of the old guard had fallen. Finalizing the deal, Mr. Reynolds cleared his throat. There's one last matter to address. Olivia turned toward him. Which is? He pulled out a folder from his briefcase, flipping it open. Once the transition is finalized, you'll have complete control over leasing agreements, vendor relationships, and property management. Lisa furrowed her brow. So she decides who stays and who leaves. Olivia smiled. That's right. Lisa paled slightly. Olivia turned toward the front of the store, watching the glass doors swing open as more mall employees arrived, drawn by the news of what had happened. This was only the beginning. For years, this place had been run on outdated rules, on unspoken biases, on the illusion of exclusivity. That ended today. Olivia had come into this store as a customer. She was leaving as the woman who owned it all. and there wasn't a single person left who could stop her. The entire mall was shifting beneath them, not physically but structurally, in power, in control, in leadership. Olivia had come in as a customer, had been accused like a criminal, and now she stood as the owner of the very place that had tried to humiliate her. But her work was far from finished. She turned back to Mr. Reynolds, who was still holding the contract folder. He cleared his throat before speaking. We'll need to go over the finer details, but the final transfer of ownership will be processed by the end of today. Olivia nodded. I want the announcement out immediately. I want every business in this mall to know that I'm in charge now. Mr. Reynolds gave a slight smile. I already have the press release drafted. Lisa shifted beside them, still visibly uncomfortable. It was strange for her to stand in a store she had once ruled, now feeling like a guest in it. She had never questioned her authority before, never imagined that someone like Olivia could walk in and take everything away from her. But Lisa had made one mistake. She thought she had power. In reality, she had only ever been given power by those above her. And when Olivia took her place at the top, that power was gone. Lisa swallowed hard. What are you planning to do with the other stores? Olivia glanced at her. That depends. Lisa hesitated. On what? Olivia exhaled, scanning the store. The customers had thinned out, some leaving after witnessing the chaos, while others lingered, pretending to browse while still eavesdropping. The employees, standing in small clusters, still processed the drastic shift in leadership. This wasn't just about one store. This was about the entire mall, the entire culture of how things had been run, and Olivia had every intention of rebuilding it from the ground up. She turned back to Lisa. I plan to review every leasing agreement, every contract, every policy that has been enforced in this mall. Lisa frowned. Why? Because I know I'm not the only one who has been treated like this, Olivia said simply. If this is how your store operates, I can only imagine how the others do. Lisa's face turned red. You're not saying that every store? I'm saying that the rules of this mall were built to keep people like me out, Olivia said. And if I'm the one in charge now, those rules end today. Lisa clenched her jaw but didn't argue. For the first time, she didn't have the right to argue. The bigger plan. Olivia turned to Mr. Reynolds. How many of the current business owners here are local entrepreneurs? Reynolds lifted his tablet, scrolling through a list. Less than 30%. Most of the stores in this mall are owned by large corporations, high-end chains. Olivia nodded, already forming a plan. That's going to change. Lisa's brow furrowed. Change how? Olivia crossed her arms. I want to make sure more of these storefronts are available to small business owners, to local brands that have been shut out of places like this. Lisa blinked. You want to bring in smaller businesses? Olivia smiled slightly. Why? Do you think this mall only belongs to rich corporations? Lisa didn't answer, but she didn't have to. For years, Crestview Mall had prided itself on being exclusive. It catered to a very specific clientele. The wealthy, the elite, the ones who didn't just shop but flaunted their ability to shop. The mall's policies, its lease agreements, its security measures, all of it had been built to reinforce that exclusivity. But Olivia had different plans. This mall would no longer be a place where people felt like they didn't belong. It would be a place where everyone had the chance to build something. She turned back to Reynolds. Find out which businesses have been struggling to stay open here. Find out who's been denied lease renewals or priced out unfairly. Reynolds nodded, making a note. Understood. Lisa let out a soft breath, rubbing her temple. You're changing everything. Olivia met her gaze. That's the point. Lisa looked away as if trying to collect herself. This wasn't just about Olivia owning the mall. This was about Olivia transforming it. And there was nothing Lisa could do to stop it. An unexpected guest. Before Olivia could continue, a voice spoke from near the entrance. Dr. Carter. She turned. A police officer stood in the doorway, his uniform crisp, his badge gleaming under the bright lights. Another officer, a woman, stood just behind him. Their expressions were unreadable, but their presence alone was enough to turn heads. Lisa straightened. Oh, you called them after all? She muttered under her breath. Greg had made a call before storming out. Olivia had almost forgotten about that. The officer stepped forward, clearing his throat. We received a report of a possible theft situation. Lisa hesitated. It's already been handled. The officer glanced around, his gaze landing briefly on Olivia. We'd still like to get statements from the parties involved. Lisa tensed, but Olivia remained completely calm. She gestured toward Amanda, who was still standing near the back of the store, her arms tightly wrapped around herself. There's your suspect, Olivia said smoothly. She was caught stealing from the store earlier. Amanda's face flushed. Oh, come on, the officer sighed. Ma'am, I need to ask you to step outside with us. Amanda shot Olivia a glare, her perfect facade cracking further. You happy now? Olivia didn't even blink. Justice makes me very happy. Amanda clenched her jaw but didn't resist as the officers led her toward the exit. Lisa watched them go, still pale, still trying to process everything. The police officer turned back toward Olivia. And you, ma'am? Olivia tilted her head slightly. What about me? We were also told that you were involved in the altercation earlier, that security suspected you of. The officer hesitated, as if suddenly realizing how ridiculous it sounded. Olivia let out a soft, amused breath. Accused of theft? The officer cleared his throat. Yes. Olivia's gaze flickered toward Lisa. Do I look like a suspect now? Lisa didn't answer. The officer shifted on his feet, clearly uncomfortable. He already knew the answer. Finally, after a long pause, he exhaled and nodded. I think we're done here. Lisa swallowed hard. Amanda was gone. Greg was gone. Olivia had won. And everyone in the store, everyone in the entire mall, had just witnessed what happens when power is handed to the right person. Olivia turned back toward Lisa. Now let's talk about your apology. Lisa felt her stomach twist as the words settled between them. Apology. She had known it was coming, but hearing Olivia say it out loud made it real. More real than anything else that had happened that day. The customers had left. The police had walked Amanda out, and the store employees had all seen what happened. But Olivia wasn't interested in letting this be swept under the rug. She wanted accountability. Lisa exhaled, shoulders tense. Dr. Carter, I understand you're upset. Stop. Olivia's voice was calm but firm. I'm not upset. I'm holding you accountable. Lisa swallowed. The store was silent now. The customers were gone, but the employees remained. Emily, Tessa, the cashiers, the floor staff, all of them stood there waiting, watching. Because Olivia wasn't just doing this for herself. She was doing it for every person who had ever been treated the way she had. You let this happen, Olivia continued, her voice measured. You stood by while Greg harassed me. You backed him up. You made the choice to side with him, to side with the policy, instead of stopping to ask if what you were doing was right. Lisa's lips parted, but she didn't have an excuse. Because Olivia was right. She had backed Greg up. Not because she agreed with him, but because it was easier. Because she had never thought twice about what security did to certain customers. Because this was how things had always been done. Until today. Lisa's hands tightened at her sides. She hated this feeling. Being called out. Being exposed. Standing in front of her own staff like a failure instead of their leader. But she knew she had no choice. She had to say it. Lisa cleared her throat, forcing herself to look Olivia in the eye. I was wrong. A flicker of surprise crossed Olivia's face. She had expected resistance, defensiveness, maybe even an excuse. But Lisa wasn't Greg. She knew when she had lost. Lisa exhaled and continued. I should have stopped Greg the moment he singled you out. I should have handled it differently. I should have questioned what was happening instead of blindly following it. She paused, her gaze flickering toward the employees still standing by. And I should have spoken up sooner. I let something happen that should never have happened in this store. I take responsibility for that. The weight of her own words settled in her chest. Lisa had never apologized before. Not like this. Not in public. She wasn't the kind of person who admitted she was wrong. She had built a career off of being right, off of enforcing policies, off of maintaining control. But Olivia had taken that control. And for the first time, Lisa realized, maybe she had never really deserved it. She inhaled deeply, looking back at Olivia. I'm sorry. A beat of silence. Then Olivia nodded once. Good. She didn't thank Lisa, didn't soften the moment, didn't make it easier. Because apologies weren't about making the guilty party feel better. They were about acknowledging the harm they had done. And that was enough. The final shift. Lisa let out a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Mr. Reynolds, who had been silent through the exchange, finally spoke. That's handled. Now let's talk about next steps. Lisa stiffened, but Olivia didn't hesitate. Emily will be taking over store management. Lisa flinched but nodded. Understood. You'll be responsible for assisting in the transition, Olivia continued. You'll train her, walk her through policies, everything she needs to know. You'll be part of this change, or you can walk out today. Your choice. Lisa closed her eyes for a moment. A week ago, she would have left. A day ago, she would have fought harder. But now? Now she just nodded. I'll stay. Olivia gave a small, approving nod before turning toward the rest of the employees. This isn't just about this store. It's about the entire mall, the entire way this place is run. You have a choice. You can stay and be a part of that change, or you can leave. No one moved. Then Emily lifted her chin. I'm staying. Tessa hesitated, then nodded. Me too. One by one, the employees agreed. Lisa, standing among them, nodded as well. This wasn't her store anymore. But maybe if she worked for it, she could still be a part of what came next. The announcement went out by the end of the day. By the next morning, every business in the mall knew what had happened. By the afternoon, the story had spread beyond the mall. It was everywhere. Doctor accused of theft buys entire mall. Luxury stores discrimination backfires in the most epic way. From customer to owner, how one woman took back her power. The videos had already gone viral. Footage of Greg harassing Olivia. Footage of Amanda getting caught. Footage of Lisa standing there, silent, complicit. And, most importantly, footage of Olivia standing tall in the center of the store, declaring that everything had changed. The backlash was immediate. Crestview Mall had never received this kind of attention before. Some people were furious. Some called Olivia a hero. Some wanted her to do the same thing to every high-end mall in the country. But Olivia didn't care about the noise. She cared about the work. She spent the next week reviewing policies, revising security protocols, ensuring that this mall, her mall, would never be a place where people were judged before they were served. She met with local business owners. She opened new leasing opportunities for small, diverse brands that had never been given the chance before. She hired new security personnel, ones who actually did their jobs. She gave Emily full control of the store, ensuring she had the support and leadership training needed to succeed. Lisa stayed, but she was no longer the person in charge. She worked under Emily now, following the very rules she had once enforced. It was humbling but necessary. And Olivia? She walked through the mall, past the stores she now owned, past the luxury brands that had once shut people like her out. She paused in front of the same glass display case where it had all started. The handbag was still there, the one she had admired before Greg had accused her. She could buy it now. She could buy 100 of them. But she just smiled. She didn't need the bag. She had already won. And as she turned and walked out, stepping into the mall that was now hers, she knew this was only the beginning. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like this video and share your thoughts in the comments. What would you have done in this situation? And don't forget to subscribe for more powerful stories like this.